Welcome back to Tracy Take Tuesday. My name's Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are doing another mock draft here as we are just a couple weeks away from the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. Before we get into it, do all the YouTube things, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and also a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are on our draft. And Ryan, let's pull up PFF here. So we will be
Let's do it.
alternating picks. We did that last time, and Ryan and I agreed that we liked that a lot more. This time, though, Ryan will be odd numbers. I will be the even numbers. So, with that being said, Ryan, you are on the clock. What is Tennessee doing? I know it's a super tough decision with all the news coming out over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that this one's pretty chalk. I would be very surprised if Tennessee does not take Cam Ward here. I'm going to try to mix up the picks a little bit throughout this mock draft, but this is just one that I don't really see changing. To me, the draft really starts with the Browns at 2. Do they go with Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Shadur Sanders? There's really a lot more options for them there, but I think Cam Ward, he's a top 10 prospect in this class, and then he's also a quarterback on top of that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like just going Cam Ward here at 1 is the clear decision. So
Yeah.
Cam Ward is going here to the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah. I just think that just makes a lot of sense when it comes like to what the Titans are going to. A lot of sense in the realm of what we've been seeing now from the Titans front office, from where they are at as a team, the moves that they made this offseason when it comes to like the free agency and also like kind of building the offensive line as well to prepare for a situation like this. So I think it makes sense. Is he the best player in this draft? Like, no, I do think you got to put that up there to Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, maybe even Mason Graham as well, just when it comes to like pure impact, like from day one. But quarterback, though, is the most important position on any football team. So Tides are hoping to strike gold here. The Browns, are they going to go quarterback here? I believe they will not do that. I think they will wait till the second round or even maybe trade up into the first round to go and get a quarterback here. So it really leaves just two options for me. Is it going to be Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter? I could see it going either way. I'll probably go with Travis Hunter because I do think one of the things that the team also does need is going to be some receiver help as well. I know he's going to be more of he's going to be a full-time corner, but even that ability, whoever the quarterback's going to be, to have a guy like Travis Hunter that you can throw the ball to, I think you can have him there for a couple plays. So I think that dual dynamicness. That being said, though, I could maybe see them going Abdul Carter as well. Uh, and I don't think Tet McMillan. I just think this is going to be too high for a Tet McMillan spot here.
Yeah.
I think they will get receiver in the second or well, not the second round because I think they'll trade up to get a quarterback potentially. But I think the third round or even early part of fourth round is going to be where they hit that skill position player spot.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a coin flip between Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. I'd love the Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett pairing for the Browns. I think that would be really intriguing in and of itself. But I think just the star power of Travis Hunter and
Yeah,
kind of what he brings to the table, I think you're definitely going to, um, as far as a ticket sales aspect, I think that will definitely uh, move the needle a little bit more there. So here, this puts the Giants in a really interesting spot. And if we were doing trades, I honestly would have the Giants trade back here with a team maybe like the Panthers or honestly even the Saints or the Bears into that 8, 9, 10 spot. You could probably get a future first, definitely at least a future second, and a lot more picks this year. But I do think it's interesting with Kayvon Thibodeau's contract situation. They just signed Brian Burns to an extension, or not extension, to a contract after they traded for him last year. Kayvon Thibodeau is coming into the last year of his rookie deal. They could potentially move him. I do think that there's a realistic possibility that they just draft best player available here, which is definitely Abdul Carter, and then potentially move on from Kayvon Thibodeau at the trade deadline or maybe even sooner, just because there hasn't been as much production there as I think you would hope. Like he's definitely shown potential, but for a top 5 pick at that edge rusher spot, you'd want something maybe a little bit more. And I think Abdul Carter can deliver that for them there. So I know it's not the biggest need right now. I also think that they could go Shadur Sanders here. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, do you think that this is Shadur? If they,
it's your pick. It's your draft.
well,
I
yeah, but I'm asking your.
personally no. I don't think
Okay.
they're doing that. I don't think you sign. Heck, I don't think you sign Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston if you're going to take quarterback here. I think it's more likely they would honestly trade up for Jackson Dart um, at the beginning of the second round or maybe even end of the first round or do Jalen Milrow and try and get a guy that you can maybe develop and go that route more than they would go with Shador Sanders here.
Okay. Then let's take Abdul Carter here. I know it's not like the biggest need, but it's definitely best player available. And then they could potentially move Kayvon Thibodeau and recoup maybe a later first round pick or another pick in next year's draft from another team just because of his contract situation there. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and draft Abdul Carter there at 3.
Okay. I like it. I like it. I think here, to me, this is still a pretty open spot here. I think there's a lot of different ways they can go. The first 4 names on the board I really like in the Patriots organization, just as a whole. I'm probably I my if the board works out this way, your Patriots, I think they will go with Will Campbell over these other guys here. And this is probably going to be what happens. It's probably going to be these first 3 guys are going to go 1, 2, 3 in some order. And so
Yeah.
I do think Will Campbell is going to be the guy because even too, if he doesn't work out at left tackle because of the arm situation, which I know you bring up a bunch, I think you still kick him in the guard, and I think you can move him around from there. Speaking of guys, you have Cole Strange coming in on the 4th year of his contract. He's the starting left guard as of right now, according to our lads. I don't know if he'll stay the starting left guard. You'll probably
He might
know.
actually be the center.
Oh, according to our lads, as of right now, they have Garrett Bradbury slotted in as center, but
Yeah.
potentially so. I think that's what Will Campbell, though, provides that offensive line versatility. And with the upside of potentially being that left tackle, but worst case scenario, you kick him into left guard and you got very, very possible Pro Bowler at left guard in
Yeah.
Will Campbell.
Yeah. No, I like that pick. I mean, I think one of the things that people get frustrated with is like people are like, oh, at 4, you have to get a franchise altering player. And it's like, there's just not that at this point in the draft. If Travis
It's
Hunter and
just,
Abdul Carter
yeah.
don't fall to you, you're just not going to get that. And I think taking the swing at Will Campbell at tackle, I think his intangibles are through the roof. He's probably the highest football character guy in this draft class. And so I
Yeah.
think going and getting him here at 4, I think does you the most good in the locker room. And if he kicks into left guard, then fine. He'll just be a perennial captain and a perennial Pro Bowler at left guard.
Well,
And
and I also think too with that argument that people say that, and I'm for it. But if you're looking for a guy that can come in and be an impact player like immediately day one, I know like you have Ramondre Stevenson, but like go get Ashton Jeanty, right? I mean he's one of the better running back prospects that we've seen in a long time. If you're looking at it from a perspective of who can help contribute the most from day one, Ramondre Stevenson, you don't have to keep like long term. I think you can have that 1-2 running back tandem that we're seeing a lot of teams do as of right now. And the same argument I think maybe could be made with Ted McMillan. I know you guys signed Stephon Diggs, but still you want to have somebody else on the outside. Is I think if you're going to go try and find an impact player, if that's what you really want, and if you don't trust Will Campbell is going to be that guy, I think there's merit to going with Tet or with Ashton. So that's just my 2 cents.
yeah, no, and I think that there is merit there. I just think that this is such a deep running back class. I would hate for them to overextend themselves on a running back like Ashton Jeanty, especially when
Sure.
Ramondre Stevenson is due a lot of money in the next 3 years. Um, so I think that that is an option. Tet, yeah, I could see he's a high football character guy also. And I do think Will Campbell could have an impact in the run game as well. Get him going downhill with his athleticism and strength. I think that that would be a good fit in a Josh McDaniels offense. So uh, moving on here to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I feel like I make this pick every time, but I do struggle to make another pick make more sense other than Mason Graham here. I don't know if you have any others that
No.
you like, but Mason Graham here as that disruptive defensive lineman, they can go and get kind of the bigger run stuffer later and kind of have a Kenneth Grant later. But I think Mason Graham here just makes too much sense. That they're going to be wide receivers later that are going to complement Brian Thomas Jr. A lot more than Tet McMillan will. Like they just Mason Graham just fits so well here at 5.
Yeah, I really like this defensive line. Once you put Mason Graham in there, I think it's going to be a big boost for this defense as a whole. Really, also help out the secondary bunch if they can just rush 4 and then drop back 7. So, I think that would be great for Jacksonville. I agree with you. It feels like it's just we're constantly making that pick, but it's just one of those picks that it just fits because I don't think Mason Graham's going to be taken to the top 4. And if I go look at just the available needs for this Jacksonville Jaguars team and best guys on the board that can come and contribute right now, Mason Graham is just that guy for Jacksonville. So we've done this in the past where like we get so like kind of echo chambered around one player to one team, and then when that team doesn't make it, we're like, whoa. And I feel like if
Yeah.
they don't take Mason Graham at 5, I'm gonna have that reaction like, what the hell are they thinking?
Oh,
I'd be
yeah,
very curious to
exactly.
see. That being said, I could see it. It would be interesting to have Ted McMillan in the receiving room with Brian Thomas. I mean, you have Gabe Davis there, yes, but come on, let's be honest. Like Gabe Davis is Ted McMillan might be a better NFL receiver right now than Gabe Davis, if we're being
Oh, yeah.
honest. So I think that'd be a very interesting receiving tandem. And so other than that, though, to be honest, I don't see them going any other route. They wouldn't go Ashton Jeanty. They wouldn't go Jahdae Barron. I mean, maybe Jahdae Barron, but they wouldn't go Tyler Warren. I don't believe. I think it's too early for a tight end. I mean, who would take a tight end in the top 5? Am I right? What stupid organization would do that? That's a joke, obviously, in case if anybody hasn't figured that out. But, anyways, moving on to the Las Vegas Raiders here. They've made a lot of moves. New head coach. The new head coach got his old QB the last season that he was in the league with Seattle Seahawks, and then even just signed him to an extension. Congratulations, Geno Smith. So here with the Raiders, I really like the options that they have available. They could absolutely go Ted McMillan. They can go Ashton Jeanty. They did just release Jack Jones as well. And if I look at this depth chart, they only have a couple of corners that are actually on the team as of right now. And 2 starting guys are 4th-round rookies. Fourth round guys on rookie contracts from 24 and 23, Jacorian Bennett and DeCamarion Richardson. Sorry if I mispronounced your first name there, bud. But I think any of those options I think are legit. So I'm going to go with one of those 3. I feel like it's too high for Jahdae Barron. And I feel like with
Yeah.
how deep this running back class is, you can go get Ashton Jeanty. I really like the idea of Ted McMillan in this receiving room with Brock Bowers at the middle, and then you have Kobe Myers on the other side. So I'm going to go with Ted McMillan here at this pick. I really think they can go in any of those directions. They maybe even if they wanted to be really fun, go Malachi Starks and just get another great secondary guy in there. Once again, though, I think it's maybe similar to Jahdae Barron, a little too high for them to go that route.
No, I agree with that. I mean, this is I laugh. Like the Patriots at 4, I think is probably one of the hardest spots to pick in this entire draft. You wait like 2 spots to go down to the Raiders, and I feel like you're actually getting decent value there because you're going to get somebody from that tier that's actually falling to you that
Yeah.
actually goes in and fills a need. And so maybe it's just like a matter of perspective, but I think that's a really good fit. I think that they could use him in a Jackson Smith and Jigba type way. I know they're slightly different size and stature there, but I think they play the game similarly, kind of over the middle, run after catch, and use a lot of route running prowess to create separation over the middle. So I think that's a really good fit there. Here with the Jets, I think there's a lot of ways they could go, but the biggest thing I think is just going and solidifying that offensive line. And so I'm going to go with Armand Membu. He's my top offensive lineman in this class. I do struggle to project right tackles to switch to left tackles. Luckily, in this situation, the Jets are just going to plug them right in at right tackle and move on. But for teams that might be looking at him earlier and maybe looking at him switching to the left side, I struggle with that projection just because it's a whole different system. It's a whole different muscle memory. It's not like he's a guard where guards go left and right on any given snap. His vertical sets are all going to be on his back right foot. So you go and switch to the left side and your vertical sets are all going to be on your left foot now, and that's going to be your back foot. So not only is it new muscle memory that you have to establish and it'll feel awkward, you do see a significant decrease in play, especially in the beginning as they're getting used to it. And then also too, I think it could also be a potential cause for injury early on in the career. So the Jets, I think that's a perfect fit for Armand Mimbu. He can go and slot in and be that right tackle for them right away.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, no, I can think too as well with the Jets. They're kind of in a rebuild here, but they've really struggled with the offensive line over the past couple of years. But even towards the second half of last year, they started to find something. I think Olu's going to keep on developing, and he was playing better until he got hurt. I believe he broke his left foot. Is that what it was? But
Yeah.
either way, though, and so you go get another guy very similar to Olu, just on the right side, and maybe a little bit tinier, but still, I think very effective and explosive. I think it could be interesting to see what the Jets do, but Jets are kind of in that rebuild phase that they have Justin Fields, low risk, high reward, a type
Yeah.
situation as Aaron Glenn comes in, setting up the new regime. So that takes us to the Carolina Panthers here, and I still feel like it's going to be front seven in some form, particularly on like the defensive line edge rusher setting. There is a possibility they maybe go secondary. As of if I look at the room as of right now, they really only have a couple of guys when it comes to their current roster as of right now. They only have three safeties on the roster as a whole, two strong safeties, one free safety, according to our lads. They only have a couple of corners as well. So I think that could be a potential spot that they get some more depth in, and it's something that they focus on in the draft. But here, I think the value though of going edge rusher and finding the guy that they like is just too much to pass up. Especially too, I think has there been you've had Abdul Carter, so like the premier guy.
Yeah.
But here though, I think some of this stuff when you look at the average draft position, even if you scroll like I'm not going to go that low. But I think some of it though, it goes to show the volatility of the draft. Like Mike Green, it says average draft position 15. I think it's because he could go at 8, but some teams, if he gets passed on for some reason or another, could go all the way down to 25. And I think the same could be said like for James Pierce Jr. and Donovan Ezraku, where they could potentially be a top 10 pick, but they could potentially fall out of the first round just if teams for some reason or another don't value them. So that's what I think is very interesting when and like my thought process on looking at this. I think of the type of defense that they run, which is that 3-4. And if they want to go with more of an outside guy, I do think Green, Ezraku, or James Pierce Jr. going to be the guys that they go. And as a team that had one of the worst rushing defenses last year, ironically, is going to pick probably the smallest of the defenders in Donovan Ezraku here, as he had a graded out really well in the run game at Boston College. I think he also had a bunch of sacks. If you want to actually pull up their stats here on PFF, and hopefully back me up here as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
14 sacks this past year. He had an amazing run game, and also really good at the pass game as well. Lots of hurries, lots of hits. I think he's going to come in and do really well in this system with that motor. Across from Jadeveon Clowney, you're going to have Derek Brown there still as well. So I think that defensive last year was so bad that I think Donovan Ezraku is already like even his floor like can't be any worse than what it was last year. And I think he brings a massive ceiling to the team.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised you're making that pick. I feel like I've been the Donovan Ezraku hype man this offseason, but
Well, I think two things. One, I think you go look at where they're ranking at as of right now. Could he fall? Absolutely. But I also think too, if you
yeah,
don't like that pick, then input Mike Green, then input James
yeah.
Pierce Jr. Like it's the same kind of pick.
Well, and I like that fit because they do need help in the run game, and that's probably one of
Yeah.
Donovan Ezraku's biggest pluses versus a James Pierce Jr. or a Mike Green, especially Mike Green. But he can be a true 3-down edge defender because he was before he was a top pass rusher in college football. He was a tremendous run defender. So I think that's a really good fit for Donovan Ezraku and the Panthers. Moving on here to the Saints here at 9. I'm also going to stick in the edge category. They really need somebody, I think, to come in and be the Cam Jordan replacement. Just because Cam Jordan, I think, is very close to retirement. If he might have retired this offseason, if I'm not
No,
mistaken.
he's coming back.
Oh, he is? Okay. I remember there was like a lot of talk about whether he would or not. But I'm going to go with one of my favorite guys in this class, and I think you probably already know who I'm looking for. But Shamar Stewart was just a absolute freak at the combine, to the point where I think you can explain away a lot of his lack of production just in terms in a few different categories. One, I think Texas A&M asked their edge rushers to do a lot more in containment and keeping the run game in front of them than really letting them pin their ears back and get up the field. And at the NFL, that's just not going to happen. The Not that they're not going to be disciplined on early downs, but they're going to really let these pass rushers pin their ears back and get after it a lot more. And two, he's not the most refined edge rusher in this class. And I think a little bit of coaching is going to go a long way with him where he can really elevate his game. But the third thing is he still had a lot of pressures. Like he created a lot of pressures and disrupted the pocket a lot. He just wasn't always the guy finishing it off, or he wasn't able to fully contain the quarterback. But with his athleticism, again, with more opportunities, I feel like he is really going to have a really, really high ceiling at the next level. He's going to be perfect in that 4 down front. And granted, we don't fully know what they're going to be running with the new coaching staff down there in New Orleans, but I do think his athleticism will allow him to thrive in a lot of different situations. And I think New Orleans is a really good fit for him down there.
Yeah.
So,
No, once again too, I think that's a great point on what type of system do they want to be running. And so if they want to switch to a 3-4, then I think that leans more to the James Pierce, Mike Green category. But to your point though, if this guy is a Cam Jordan replacement, kind of the same size, kind of the same build, going to have that same motor. So I think that could be a route that they go here. Sneaky pick right here, and I don't know how much I would think that I would do this if it was mine, but I saw something here about on Twitter, so it must be true. I saw it over the weekend, but Shador Sanders potentially going to the Saints, and you think about it, you have Kellen Moore coming in. Derek Carr's clearly not the long-term guy. What's his thoughts on Spencer Rattler? Do you really think Spencer Rattler is going to be the guy long term? As much as I think he maybe deserves a shot in the Saints offense, I think it'd be interesting. But if you're looking for a developmental guy, and the Saints are kind of in this pseudo rebuild as well, be very low pressure for Shador. I think it would be interesting just to be here, especially just as an offensive minded coach. Just as a thought, Saints fans, if you're still with us, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Shador going to the Saints. So my turn though here with Chicago. This is a really easy pick now, the way that the board shaked up. But Ashton Jeanty to the Chicago Bears. I just think Ben Johnson would absolutely love that as well. I would love it as I have the first overall pick in my dynasty league. So I'm already going to take Ashton Jeanty, but him in a Ben Johnson system, oh, love it. Absolutely love it. Except I do have DJ Moore. So that might kind of counteract a little bit, but that's just to me just a no brainer. We've seen Ben Johnson do that before. I think if you go look at this offense here, it's obviously they have the quarterback. They've invested so much in the offensive line as well, and even traded for several really good guys like Joe Tooney. I really like Drew Dahlman from Atlanta. I think there was maybe some room for improvement, in my opinion. That being said, though, if you look at the free agent centers, Drew Dahlman was clearly one of the best ones. Him and Ryan Kelly, I think, would have been interesting. But he's the young guy coming off rookie contract, where Ryan Kelly's been much more established, but significantly much more improved offensive line. And then you go look at Roma Dunze, you got DJ Moore out there as well in that offense. You still got Cole Kmet. And you already do have DeAndre Swift, but he's definitely going to be more of that receiving back. I think Ashton Jeanty can eventually be that do-it-all back for Ben Johnson. And so really like that in Chicago.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great fit. I actually think you look at Chicago's assets, especially with the 2 second-round picks. I think they could potentially make a move up for Ashton Jeanty, and so I think that would be a really interesting spot for him to go. Obviously, for fantasy owners, they would love it. Just the amount of touches that he would get. So, moving on to the 49ers, so they could go pretty much every direction. They need offensive line. They need defensive line. They need corner. They could potentially, if Ashton Jeanty was there, I think that would be a potential option for them as well. They could use a wide receiver. I really think that Will Johnson his stuff is being overhyped. He was considered a blue chip prospect coming into this offseason. And the fact that he's still on the board, if I'm San Francisco, is really intriguing to me, just because he can be that man-to-man outside corner. He's big enough to easily contribute in the run game at 6'2", 200 pounds. They just let Charvarius Ward walk. That is a whole different discussion on why that actually happened rather than like anything that the San Francisco 49ers did. And they just extended D. Lenore as well. So I think that it is a potential option to go and just get that two corner tandem here early in this draft, because I think you're looking at it and Jahdae Barron is good. Yes, he's more of a versatile piece rather than a true outside corner. Tyler Warren, they could get a George Kittle replacement while he's still there, but he's under contract. Malachi Starks could be interesting since they just lost a couple safeties. But I still feel like Will Johnson is just the best player on the board right now. And if you just go watch him in 2023 when Michigan went and won the national championship, I think that speaks for itself right there. He had some injuries and he was kind of prepping for the draft. And just because people haven't seen him play in a while, his draft stock is falling. So I'm going to go Will Johnson here at 11. I feel like that's really good value. And yeah, he has a floor like a low floor because of the injuries. But if he were healthy, he would not be anywhere remotely close to being drafted here.
Yeah, no, and I think that's fair too. And this is kind of that point of the draft. I feel like this is where that average draft position really starts to flex, because you're just Jahdae Barron is a really good player, but like, how do they value him over Will Johnson? Then, like, how are other teams going to value that as well? So is Jahdae Barron going to fall a little bit, so to say? And I just use that as an example. Same thing with Tyler Warren, or so with the 49ers, I could see them going offensive line, but if Will Campbell's not there, you're right. Like, what other direction can they go? I could see them going a lot of different directions. So I think it's going to be very interesting for Dallas. Once again, I think similar to the 49ers, they could go in just so many different directions as right here. I know in the past we've done Matthew Golden, we've done Ashton Jeanty when he's there. They've actually made a decent bit of moves overall. I think a lot more than expected. They've done a good job of bargain hunting, going and getting even like edge rushers like Dante Fowler, who's coming off a really good year. Who I think could help play a lot. You do trade for some guys in the secondary that are still, I guess, get some good depth. Not anybody that I would really want to hold my season on, and like in Kyrie Elam. So, but still trying to find some pieces to just improve on. And that's what I think is very interesting with this team is like, which direction do they go? Like, I think Jahdae Barron can come in and would be extremely interesting. I don't think they would go Tyler Warren just because they already have so many tight ends. They have Jake Ferguson. That being said, Ferguson is coming up on his rookie contract. And to my knowledge, I don't believe he has re-signed with anybody. And so I think here, a lot of different ways I think they could end up going. Scroll down just a little bit. Let's see who else is still on the board here. And they've invested a lot in the offensive line. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Give me Omarion Hampton here. Give me Omarion Hampton. This is definitely a way too overreach. I know they've gotten Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, but I know you really like him. I think the dude's a beast, and he's not going to make it there by their next pick. And if you go look at what this team needs, is they've improved on the offensive line. It's a young offensive line, and now they'd have essentially their entire offensive line, and I think outside of Terrence Steele, and also now too like a premier running back, pretty much like on contract, like rookie contracts for the next just like couple of years. And they're going to have a lot of big contracts they got to pay up, such as Micah Parsons next year. I think you go and do this. You add another weapon onto that team. And if they don't like Omarion Hampton, you could go get a Emeka Egbuka. I think Luther Burden to go help out in this receiving room. And so, but I think here, Omarion Hampton, I think he's a guy that I think can be extremely explosive in this team. I know some people say they don't like him just because he's they remind him of Najee Harris. And I kind of see that, I guess, but I think he's just more explosive and better than Najee Harris.
Yeah, I really like Omarion Hampton. The only complaint that I have in his game is just that sometimes his vision isn't the greatest. In terms of seeing like cutback lanes and things, but even then, just saying like it's not the greatest, like I still think it's above average. And especially in this running back class, I think to say that he is the clear running back too, is still maybe an understatement, but also shows like in this running back class, knowing how deep it is, the fact that he is clearly better than all the other guys except for Ashton Jeanty is still saying a lot. And I think that that's really good value there. This offensive line is young. They have some pieces there. I think this wide receiver class, you're reaching on anybody here at this point at 12. I like a lot of these guys, but I don't necessarily love a lot of these guys. And so I think that that's a really good pick there for the Cowboys. So moving on to the Miami Dolphins. So I just saw the news that it was today or yesterday, but
Yeah.
that Armstead did officially announce his retirement. There were speculations that he was going to, but that's just one more offensive line hole that they need to fill. I know they drafted Patrick Paul this past year, but I do think going out and investing in a potential tackle replacement that could also play guard, I think is going to be really important for them. And protecting Tua is just going to be one of the biggest things for them specifically. And so I think you go and you get a versatile guy like Kelvin Banks, who's coming out as a 21-year-old, really solid left tackle. I feel like he's kind of the forgotten child out of this tackle class. Like he and Will Campbell for the longest time were talked about as like the clear 1A, 1B option at tackle in this class. And everybody still talks about Will Campbell. And I know that there's more to talk about with the arm length and the wingspan and whatnot. But with that being said, Calvin Banks is just a good football player. He goes out there and announcers very rarely say his name. And for a left tackle, that's probably exactly what you want. Is just somebody he's going to go out there. He is not really ever going to get beat. When
Mm-hmm.
he lands in the running game, he's an elite run blocker. He plays with elite power. He sometimes can take really big swings and overextend and miss. But with that being said, I think with NFL coaching, that can be reined in and controlled a lot more. So I really like the fit there. He's a really good athlete for his size. And so I think that's a really solid fit there for the Dolphins. He can play left guard. He can play left tackle if Patrick Paul doesn't cut it. But I like the fit.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing for me is does Miami do they want to spend a first round pick on a left tackle after they took Patrick Paul last year? And maybe they kick him into left guard. Like that's going to be the play. You're like or maybe even move him to right tackle. See how things go.
Yeah.
But that being said, though, to your point, there's a pretty big loss though, still losing Teron Armstead, and so it makes sense that the Dolphins would want to go tackle here. And I'm trying to think of what other options. The only other option to me, I think that would really make sense then would maybe get Malachi Starks. That being said, they did sign Ashton Davis in free agency. They did sign Afitu Melifanu out of Detroit. I think I did decent there. I think I was
Yeah.
close. And so, um, but that's the only other option that's immediately jumping out to me. So I think the Dolphins can't really make too much of a wrong pick for a team that's kind of in a weird spot roster wise, in my opinion, especially too when it compares to the rest of the AFC. So speaking of AFC, Tennessee Titans division opponent, Indianapolis Colts, are on the clock here. And the way this board fell out, Tyler Warren being there, I think that's a pretty easy spot for me.
Yeah.
It's maybe they could go interior offensive line as they did lose some guys, but they've addressed the secondary, or they've gotten players in free agency that's going to help out the secondary bunch, such as Cameron Bynum and also Travarius Ward. So I think here tight end is going to be the main spot. You go get Tyler Warren. Don't worry about it. Wait for the second round.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like that fit. I like Colston Loveland a lot too. If they want to go with more, Colston Loveland is a better receiver, where Tyler Warren is like a better all around tight end.
Yeah,
And so I
I
think if they
think
want the more of a true receiver, they could go Colston Loveland. I don't think the gap is as big as some people say it is.
I don't think so either. And I'm trying to. I think they're going to go with the tight end that they feel best suits Anthony Richardson's traits. Now I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out what tight end would do that. And to me, from what I remember seeing at Penn State, was a lot of great improvisation from Tyler Warren. Now maybe just when I was watching Penn State play, and maybe he just has a connection with Drew Aller. But they're even in the Minnesota game, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Penn State had a drive and they had to go down late in the game, and they had to score a touchdown to win. If they scored a touchdown, they immediately take the lead. And the touchdown winning play was just this big long scramble and then Tyler Warren was able to get open because he was able to improvise. Now maybe it's a clear breakdown in coverage by the Minnesota defense because there's nobody else on that Penn State team that could catch the ball outside of Tyler Warren. But at the same time, though, too, it was still impressive just to see his ability. So, but that being said, though, too, is that going to be Anthony Richardson's style of game? Because he's a bigger guy, not the most accurate passer, and there might be a lot of scrambling that goes on. So, would he
I
fit
actually
better, or would Colson Loveland fit better?
I actually agree that Tyler Warren might fit better, especially too in at Penn State. They gave him a lot of scheme touches, and so they did a lot of things like get the ball in his hands that you
Yeah.
would maybe not normally see. And so I feel like going there to Indianapolis with a quarterback that's not exactly um, super accurate or runs a super traditional offense, I think you could definitely get the ball in Tyler Warren's hands on like a tight end reverse, or like act like you're running an option and then Tyler Warren is running, you pull Tyler Warren across and he gets like a pitch or something. There's a lot of different ways I think that Shane Steichen could
Yeah.
scheme the ball into Tyler Warren's hands, and I feel like that would be better for him in this offense. So no, I like the fit. Here with your Atlanta Falcons, this is an interesting spot because they're a team that really could do anything. Edge rusher is obviously a big need. They invested a lot in the defensive line last year. You go and look at this wide receiver room. You have Drake London, you have Darnell Mooney, and you don't really have a whole lot else. So I feel like this wide receiver class could be something that would be interesting. But I think you look at the interior of this offensive line, and you look at just this class, I feel like Gray Zabel, this is the ceiling for where he'll go. But with that being said, I feel like it's a pick that the Falcons would potentially want to invest in. You go get Gray Zabel, you put him in front of Michael Penix. He was the best offensive lineman at the Senior Bowl. And he's from North Dakota State. He has the athleticism and the tenacity in the run blocking game that you want for Bijan Robinson. You're going to solidify the interior there with Matthew Bergeron. You have Gray Zabel and then Chris Lindstrom there. Jake Matthews on the left side, and then who's the other guy? The right
Caleb
tackle.
McGarry.
Caleb McGarry. I feel like is a good offensive line. You guys have spent a lot of resources on the defense. I would like a Jihad Campbell here, but you guys did sign a couple linebackers in free agency. And so I'm going to go with Gray Zabel here, and he's going to be the new center there over Ryan Newsel in Atlanta.
So if he could play center, I think that would be interesting.
He played it at the Senior Bowl.
He did play at the Senior Bowl? Okay.
Yeah.
I would still be
well.
upset either way if they drafted Gray Zabel. But I don't want I like Gray Zabel a lot, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that our offensive line does have issues. The issue is that we only have 4 picks.
Yeah.
So if we don't trade back here, we end up taking somebody. I would rather us go Jahdae Barron, Jihad Campbell, Mike Green. I did Emeka Egbuka in the last draft. I would love that way more than addressing the offensive line here.
I agree. In an ideal world, they trade back. I don't know who they necessarily trade back with, especially too. I feel like they're at the top of this like really big tier of players, and so I don't know who they necessarily trade back with. And I don't think it's necessarily a mistake to invest in the offensive line. You're right; it's not the sexiest of picks. They could go elsewhere, but with that being said, there's a lot of guys in the second round and later where they could invest in get really good value at wide receiver. They could get really good value at edge rusher later. And I think that especially with Michael Penix's injury history, they need to place an emphasis on that offensive line. So sorry you don't like it, but I still feel like it makes sense in my head.
In your head, it does make sense. I do believe that. So I will say I do want to prep Falcons fans here, and no, because we'll definitely address the defensive line, but I wouldn't be surprised though if in this first pick if we do go a different route. And the only reason why I do say that as well is if we go look at our starting lineup as of right now, so we did, and just in free agency we got Morgan Fox, we got Leonard Floyd, and we got Divine Diablo, all guys that are going to be there. Going to be a focus on the front 7, not long-term guys, obviously, but we do have guys like Caden Ellis. We have Troy Anderson, Caden Ellis was a free agency signing, but he's going to be there, I think, as long as kind of he wants to be there because he really does a lot for this defense. But Troy Anderson, Arnold Ebiketie, Rook, Zach Harrison, Braylon Trice, unfortunately, tore his ACL last year in a preseason game, so we didn't get to see him too much. Even JD Bertrand's had a lot. It's like we've invested a lot already in the front seven, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And now we still haven't found anybody. So that's why I would understand if they got a Jahad Campbell, if they got a Mike Green. But my
Yeah.
one reasoning for maybe thinking they will wait till the second round again or the fourth round to address the front seven is because we've already invested a lot of capital, young capital in this team. So that's why I do think it's possible the Falcons go receiver, they go corner. Probably corner's probably the more likely spot, I think.
Yeah.
And try and get a good running mate to go alongside AJ Terrell. But that being said, though, I would like Luther Burden in this offense. I would like my Emeka Egbuka, as I said, in this offense. Shoot, maybe even Colston Loveland. I think that would be maybe just interesting. I wouldn't say I would
If you
love it. I
guys
would need to
trade
think
Kyle
about it more.
Pitts, then Colston Loveland would make a lot more sense. But
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a move. So, but let's get to the second half of this draft here now, as this has already been going on for a long time. But for me here, Arizona Cardinals, looking at this, I just really like Kenneth Grant in this defensive front system. This defense has slowly been improving. They've been playing hard, but they still need to get better at the defensive interior spot. And you go get just a big old boy like Kenneth Grant. One of the main reasons also too why that Michigan defensive front was so good. Really like that spot there with Kenneth Grant coming into Arizona.
yeah, that one I just feel like makes way too much sense.
It's similar to
For
his former teammate going to Jacksonville. It just seems like
yeah,
it just fits really well.
yeah, they need that run stuffing capabilities there. He brings a little bit more pass rush than some of the other guys in this class, like Tyleek Williams, and so I really like that fit there. I'm gonna go a bit of a different route here for the Bengals. The Bengals need a lot, but with that being said, there's a player on my board that is still available that I don't think the Bengals would pass up, and that is Colston Loveland. I think you go. I know they re-signed Mike Gesicki, but it was a very inexpensive deal. But Joe Burrow throughout his career has shown a reliance on tight ends, on third and mediums, just to go and get the first down. And I feel like you put Colston Loveland into this offense, and that would make it borderline unstoppable. So I'm going to go with Colston Loveland here. I think the Bengals realize that their defense is in trouble, and I think they're just going to try to outscore everybody, and really just kind of put pressure on offenses to push the ball down the field and keep up. So going to go with Colston Loveland here for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So
You
I
don't
would have
like
gone
that
deep.
pick either?
No, I don't like that pick either. Actually, I would have gone more. I think Jahad Campbell would be very interesting in this team as he's more that linebacker, but could provide a lot of good presence as well. And let me pull up the depth chart here, though, real quick, just to make sure that would make sense. Because I say that like I like Jermaine Pratt. He is getting a little bit up there in age, and so
He would instantly be their top tight end for sure.
I don't know. Mike Gesicki had a pretty good year last year, but I also think though too is they spent so much money on their other pass catchers. Actually, honestly, if you include even Mike Gesicki, I mean they've spent over I think they spent over $100 million on pass catchers like this
Yeah.
offseason. You know,
Well,
if you include Mike Gesicki. So rightfully so. I get that maybe not 100 million, but pretty close to it. So I think they
I
want to
think
invest some of that money elsewhere.
I do think that this is a real potential option for them, especially you look, I think all their tight ends are like nearing or over 30. And so I think, especially with how bad this defense was last year, they're just going to keep trying to outscore people. And then I think if we go look at what is their draft capital at the moment,
I think they
uh,
have like 7 picks. I think it is their 7 draft picks.
yeah, well, they're missing one. They have 6.
Remember, this is the
Uh,
7th round, it looks like.
but they can go and invest in the defensive line later, where I don't feel like they're really going to get um, a playmaker to the caliber of Colston Loveland later. Not that they really need playmakers right now, but I still like the fit there, and Joe Burrow will rely on them. And again, this defense is so bad that I think that they might just say screw it for now, and we'll just try to outscore everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's maybe so. Or honestly, yeah, we'll just have to kind of wait and see. So here with Seattle, I think there's a lot of different options that they could end up going here. It's kind of a whole revamp, so to say. Route I'm going to go, maybe going to be a little bit different, is obviously we all know about trading DK Metcalf. They have a bunch of picks already here. They did resign Cooper Kupp. I'm actually going to go with a Matthew Golden here coming out. I know they signed Cooper Kupp and they do have MVS. I still think, though, that you're going to want to have some younger options as well. And also, who's to say, too, as well, Matthew Golden maybe can't come in and with like by the end of the season, he's going to be better than MVS already. MVS obviously exploded onto the scene last year. But there's a reason why he was an unsigned free agent before the Saints picked him up and then like became like a fantasy god for those 2 or 3 games that he was there. And so there's a reason, though, why he's like that. So it got him a good contract with Seattle this offseason. That being said, though, if you're Seattle, you still need to figure out this receiving room. You have JSN, who's just going to be like Sam Darnold's best friend. Cooper Kupp is still a good receiver, but he's not the same guy. I think they're hoping that he has an Adam Thielen like kind of career and role within this offense. So you still want to go and get some other younger guys. I think Matthew Golden can come in and step up and be that guy. Because even too, you go look past that as well. Yes, you have Jake Bobo. Cool story. You have River Crawcraft as well. Really going hard on the white receivers here in Seattle now. So you're going to want to just get some other guys that have more long-term like playmaking ability.
Yeah, I also think too, they lost both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf this offseason, and I feel like that they're going to make it a priority to go and replace them.
Yeah,
And
the
you
Tyler
look,
Lockett nearly isn't as bad. Like Cooper
that's a
Kupp
more
replaces Tyler
replaceable
Lockett.
for sure.
Well, and you already had Jack Smith and Jigba. Like you already replaced
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett. And so I could see Matthew Golden coming in. And now I'm not going to say he's going to be DK Metcalf, but amongst him now and then Cooper Kupp, and then with JSN taking on a lot of more numbers as well, I think you've replaced those stats over these next couple of years.
The Moneyball approach.
Exactly.
So here with Tampa, I could go in a lot of different routes. I definitely am going to go defense just because they need that a lot more than offense. But I'm leaning towards Jahdae Barron. I like Jihad Campbell. I like Mike Green. James Pierce Jr. is still on the board. And I think all those guys would be prominent edge rushers in this defense. But I think you look at what they have draft capital wise. They have 6 picks as well. At pick 53, pick 84, I think there's going to be a lot of options at edge rusher around there. So I'm going to go with Jahdae Barron just because I feel like this cornerback class has very little depth to it. Maybe in the 4th round, they could dip in like the Noel Williams, Jacob Parrish kind of tier. But if they go with Jahdae Barron here, I feel like that is just really solid value for them. He's a versatile piece that can play a lot of different roles on the back end of this defense. And I feel like that's kind of what they need at this point. So I'm going to go with Jahdae Barron here.
I like it. I can see it. I think anything on the defensive side of the ball outside of nose tackle. They don't need nose tackle. I think Vita Vea has all the noses. I think he's totally fine. But it's like trying to find those other role players around him, whether it be in the edge rusher or other spots in the front 7. So I think going Jahdae Barron, a guy that they can move around in that secondary, if they like it, I could see it. So here with Denver, one of the few teams that's going to be more of a pure skill position player room here. And to me, pretty original. Probably just going to go with the Emeka Egbuka here. I think I just really like that combination with Cortland Sutton. I think a guy that Bo Nix can really go and rely on. It is a detriment, I think, to Bo Nix's former college teammate, Troy Franklin. I think that puts him further down the depth chart because I'd much rather have Emeka Egbuka than Troy Franklin.
Oh, yeah.
Franklin. And so I think Emeka Egbuka in this Sean Payton system. Now, you obviously have Cortland Sutton be your number 1. Then you have a pretty healthy rotation of guys to be that number 2 with Marvin Mims, Devon Villay, and then now Emeka Egbuka. And you do still have Troy Franklin. Don't get me wrong. That being said, though, there's a reason why he's second player on the depth chart. And so I think that Emeka Egbuka can come in, fit really well within the Sean Payton system.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great fit, especially too. You look Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, those guys win down the field. So you throw Emeka Egbuka in there, who is going to be much more. I don't want to say he's a possession receiver because that's underselling him by a large margin.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be more of that over the middle, move the chains type of target that can really be also a home run hitter from that
Well,
spot. So
and I will say, and this is a big caveat about Emeka Egbuka, I value him highly because I think when you look at him or versus the other slot receivers or more pure slot receivers, he, I think he's better. He's better than let's say an Xavier Restrepo or something, or even like a Jalen Knoll. Those guys who are definitely more slot guys. That being said, though, how are the NFL teams going to value a receiver that's going to be more of a slot guy? Is that
yeah,
going to potentially bump him out of the first round?
he
Uh,
has more versatility
fair.
than those guys where he can line up because he is 6 foot, like 200. Like he's not. And granted, Jalen Knoll is like 5'10", 200, so it's not that big of a difference. But uh, he Jalen Knoll is a primarily slot guy. He's going to play
Yeah.
75 to 80% of his snaps in the slot, where Mecca Buka could be 50-50.
Yeah,
So
exactly, and that's fair. So is that how teams are going to look at him? And I agree. I think they should.
yeah. No, I like Emeka Egbuka a lot. There are a lot of talks like the Patriots might draft him in the second round right now, and I think that's crazy that he's available in the second round. But here, this is where I'm going to have Shadur Sanders come off the board. I think Pittsburgh just makes so much sense for him and where he's at right now. He can throw the ball down the field pretty well, and with his timing and ability to protect the football, I feel like that Mike Tomlin will value him. The fact he's here at 21, I will say, like we talked about potential trade back spots for the Falcons. I think this could really be one. You look, I think the Steelers, they have a decent bit of draft capital. They don't have a second rounder, but you guys would probably take 21 and 83 for 15, I would say. Um,
Yeah,
and I think that just makes a lot of sense here for the Steelers. They're probably going to get Aaron Rodgers, so Sanders is going to sit for a year, which I think he needs just to work on things mechanically, and then also work on. I don't want to say like learning the game because I think he reads the field well, but like he still holds onto the football too long. He still like drops out of the back of the pocket when he gets under pressure. Some of that is because his offensive line sucks. I understand that, but I do think Shadur Sanders here is good value at 21.
I think so too. And then if you're looking at the long term vision, I know as of this recording, Aaron Rodgers has not officially signed with the Steelers. You know, I think that's I would think that would happen soon. Otherwise, if that doesn't happen, then this makes it much more enticing for the Steelers to go after and get a quarterback. So you can also have Kirk Cousins if you want. So now with the Los Angeles Chargers picking as of right now, the way this board has fallen to me, I'm really looking at all the edge rushers. So they could maybe go receiver here, but I think Luther Burden might be a little bit of an overlap. I think Jahad Campbell would be very interesting, but I think the way the board has fallen, Mike Green still on the board, James Pierce Jr. still on the board, Michael Williams, even Nick Scorton as well. So to me, I think any one of those three top guys, Green, Pierce, or Williams, I think can fit in well. I am probably going to go with the let's go with James Pierce Jr. on this one. I think he's going to have a little bit closer resemblance, even though Joey Bosa was much bigger. But I think he could be more versatile to a 4-3 versus 3-4 type defense, even though the Chargers do run a 3-4 defense. And so I think he adds that versatility.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like that a lot. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think you look, Jim Harbaugh likes those types of kind of speed rushers off the edge. Go look at like Josh Uche, Chase Winovich, Josiah Stewart. Like a lot of those guys, I think are in that similar speed edge rusher mold that are 6'3", 6'4", 250 pounds. So Josiah Stewart's a little smaller than that. But moving on here with the Green Bay Packers, this puts them in an interesting spot. I always hate trying to pick for the Packers because they're one of those teams like they don't have like any glaring needs, and so kind of here, this is where who are the wide receivers on the board? Um, I like one of those guys here. Um, let's I'll go with Michael Williams. I do really like Michael Williams and what he brings to the table. He's going to be that hand in the dirt edge rusher, but he's one of the best edge defenders against the run. He has freakish athletic traits. He has like alien long arms, and I think you get him in that Green Bay system where he can learn and develop. I think his production will be a lot better. His injuries have been a little bit of an issue throughout his college career. But that being said, he's only 21.
Mm-hmm.
He won't even be 21 on draft night. So I think there's just so much potential there that they could do that. I did think about going with Jaden Higgins. I feel like that would be he's one of the guys that has really come up my board. But I feel like that would be if Christian Watson can come back at some point this year, there'd be some redundancy there in what they could do. And they do such a good job of moving the receivers around that I feel like it wouldn't necessarily make as much sense to spend a premium asset on a receiver. Also, the Packers never draft wide receivers in the first round.
Well,
So I'm
that's
going
what
to
I
go
was going to say.
I was going to say Michael Williams.
Okay, I like that. That's what I was going to
Yeah.
say when you mentioned that they don't have any glaring weakness. Like, I actually disagree with that. I think that there are some spots on the defensive side of the ball that they could really address, and edge could be one. And also, I think improving a little bit more in the cornerback room. So I like
Yeah.
Michael Williams. I think that would have been good, or that's a good selection there. So with Minnesota, I actually think it's something similar. I think it's going to be on that defensive line side. They could get some more secondary guys as well. And actually, you know what? That is going to be the route I end up going here. Is going to be secondary. It's Malachi Starks. Him sitting here on the board. You have Harrison Smith, who has been you can make an argument future Hall of Famer. I know Vikings probably, but definitely Vikings Hall of Fame for sure. But he's getting up there in age, and you're trying to find just better secondary guys as well. I think they've done a good job with Brian Flores in that front seven of being super aggressive, taking a lot of pressure off of the guys. But that being said, though, you lose Cam Bynum as well in free agency. I feel like they're losing somebody else. I feel like they lost somebody else. I'm blanking on it as of right now. But you'll get Malachi Starks. One, you can plug and play him in as of right now, I think, in a lot of different spots. Maybe not outside corner, but then you saw that the succession plan once when Harrison Smith does retire.
Yeah, I also love him on the back end of a Brian Flores defense.
Yeah.
I think he would be fantastic. He's just really good all around. We were talking a little bit about this either at the beginning of the episode or before, but he just is. He doesn't have necessarily like a superpower, but he just always seems to be in the right spot. He always seems to know his assignment, and he was definitely a leader down there in that Georgia defense. So I think that speaks volumes. Moving on to the Houston Texans here. This is a really interesting spot because they need offensive line help. They need wide receiver help, and they need to address the defensive interior. I'm not going to go on the defensive interior. I feel like that with this class, you can get a Darius Alexander later. You can get an Omar Norman Lott or a Tyleik Williams on day two. Tackle wise, they got Blake Fisher, who's a right tackle. Cam Robinson at left tackle, I think he had some really good games last year and some really bad games for Minnesota. So I definitely think you look at the tackles on the board. Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly, Donovan Jackson is a guard. Ariante Ursery is intriguing. But then also too, wide receivers. I do really like Luther Burden. I feel like Jaden Higgins and Nico Collins would be a little bit redundant. Let's go with Luther Burden. I know you need offensive line help, but with losing Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell is not coming back in 2025. You need another weapon that can really kind of be the juice of this offense. And I feel like Luther Burden is definitely that. He had no drops from what he had drops, but I remember seeing something interesting that he didn't have. Maybe he didn't have a drop on slot snaps or something. I don't remember. But he has really reliable hands. And I think that's a really good fit for him. You have Nico Collins there on the outside. You go get Luther Burden and plug him into that slot wide receiver spot. And then if Tank Dell can come back and be the same, then you just have another three-headed monster there in Houston.
Well, and I think it's interesting too because like you do trade for Christian Kirk, but he's definitely not a long-term option.
No.
As well. So I could see it. They definitely have addressed the receiving room. They've done a lot on the offensive line when it comes to just getting more depth and I think more competition. But it would be ideal to get another offensive lineman. But to your point, it's like what other routes could they go here? We've done Tyler Booker a bunch here to the Texans. I feel like a lot of people have done that. A lot of people have done Gray Zabel, but Gray Zabel's off the board because of the amazing pick you made earlier. And so here, once again, I think the Texans could go in different directions. I don't hate the pick. Maybe they could go different routes, but love to hear Texans fans on what they think. To me, I'm really glad you did not go with this player because I really like Jahad Campbell in this defensive front seven for the Los Angeles Rams. I think the value is just too good for him now. Like it is like the 26th pick in the draft, and I also think too, you go look at their draft board or their front seven as of right now. Obviously, we all know they have Jared Verse, but then they do also have Byron Young as well. They got I just had the depth chart up. They also drafted Braden Fisk.
Yeah.
Last year they have Colby Turner. They got Poona Ford from the other LA team, the Chargers, if you're unfamiliar with them. And so I really like what they're doing so far with this front seven. And they did get Nate Landman from Atlanta, and he's a very good hustle player, but I think he's probably going to be best as like that rotational linebacker. Go bring Jahad Campbell in, and I think it just even more solidifies this front seven into this team. Do they need cornerback help? Absolutely. I think Jahad Campbell is going to provide a much more immediate value as of right now than somebody like Trey Amos would. No offense to Trey Amos. I like Trey Amos, but I think Jahad Campbell comes in. If he's here, you're taking him.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why we've seen Jahad Campbell specifically fall on boards is that he recently found out that he had to have labrum surgery, and so he's not going to be able to like work out with teams for like 8 weeks or something. And so there's going to be a lot of rehab there and a lot of I think physicals and medical testing for him coming up before the draft. So moving on here with the Ravens, I think they could go in so many different ways. They need corner help. Just because Marlon Humphreys is getting older. I know they drafted the kid from Clemson last year. And so I think maybe they don't do. Wait, I'm sorry.
Nate Wiggins.
That's right. I do think that they could go a lot of different routes. Jalen Walker, I think, would be really interesting. The two names that I'm kind of fumbling around in my head are either Mike Green or actually going and getting Josh Simmons and having him be either they got Roger Rosengarten last year. They re-signed Ronnie Stanley, but he's 31 or 32 now and is getting to the end of his career. So maybe Josh Simmons is the insurance plan there. And also, Josh Simmons is not a guard. Josh Simmons is not a guy, like he's definitely a tackle. He's not a guy I think that you would really want to kick in to guard because I feel like he would do his best work in space where his athleticism can really shine. And so I'm kind of leaning towards Mike Green here, where they can go. He's going to be a situational pass rusher, but I think one of the things that we talked about earlier when you were making the Panthers pick, actually, Mike Green is just not great against the run. And so I feel like if they go and use him in like a Kyle Van Noy way, but maybe with a little bit more juice at this point, I think that Mike Green would be a great rotational edge rusher early on in his career that could potentially earn more 3-down snaps later on in his career. And I feel like that's just a really good fit for him in that kind of 3-4 system. So let's go with Mike Green.
Okay. I like it. I once again, I think the Ravens roster, I like a lot about it. I could see them going offensive line, at depth for the future. I really actually kind of now with the Darius Washington sliding in as the free safety. That's when we really start to see the secondary and the pass game improve a lot. So, I mean, maybe they could go secondary here, maybe go Trey Amos. But once again, I think they can go find just as good a value in the second and third round. And so I don't really think there's too many wrong picks here, even if they want to maybe go receiver and get another guy, even because DeAndre Hopkins is not the long-term solution. So, but we'll have to wait and see. I like Mike Green. Once again, similar to Jahad Campbell, him falling all the way down here. And what's funny, even too, I think I mentioned this on the video earlier and about 40 minutes ago, how it's proved out like even guys like Jahad Campbell, Mike Green, their average draft position, yes, is really good. But the way our board has fallen, some great picks and some bad picks have been made over these guys. So I won't say which ones the bad picks are, but I could see just their value dropping down just because it's not that they're not really good players, but they're just not as exceptional as like a Mason Graham, so to say, comparative to like the rest of the field, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see where they end up falling. So here with the Detroit Lions, once again, a roster that I really like. You go look at the starters here. I would put the starters up against any other team in the league. I think one thing that would be interesting, as we're talking about preparing for the future here, this is where I actually do think Josh Simmons would be a very legitimate candidate here. Taylor Decker is getting a little bit up there in age. He's also been battling some injuries as well. And I think Josh Simmons, imagine with him in that explosiveness here, guarding for Jahmyr Gibbs. Imagine a halfback pitch to the left side, and you have Josh Simmons rolling out downfield. I feel
Y-
bad for all the secondary guys that are down there. And
You pull
so
Penn Sewell around too as the second blocker. That'd be
you send Penny Sewell out for a route, and you have Dan Skipper throw the ball. Like, I mean, this
yeah.
Lions offense is going to be extremely versatile. All 11 guys are eligible receivers. That would be pretty wild. But no, in all seriousness, though, I, I don't think there's a wrong pick here. I do think edge rusher would also be a really good option as well. But I think we've consistently gone defense for the Lions, so trying to mix it up
Yeah.
a little bit. I think Josh Simmons would be a guy you can come in. Taylor Decker, which unfortunately has been getting hurt a little bit more, and even other guys on the line have been getting hurt as well. So I think you go Josh Simmons, start preparing more for that future. Then you have Penei Sewell, Josh Simmons across from one another.
Oh yeah.
I just really like that as a whole.
No, I think that's a really good fit. He can also gives him time to get healthy and
Yeah.
not be rushed back into a starting position. So I do think that is a good pick there. There are like not that I have concerns about Josh Simmons because I think traits wise he's the best tackle. He had a really good first 5 games. It was also against like Iowa, Nebraska, like it was against in Marshall, like it was against nobodies. Like it's not like he was doing that against the
Fair.
Indianas and the Oregons of the world.
I will say Iowa and Nebraska's defenses were pretty good this year. And the Marshall game too, he was blocking against Mike Green. Now I guess not every time.
Well,
Mike Green
no,
was rotating.
Mike
And
Green
so
lined up mostly over the right tackle.
oh, okay. Well, so he
So
did go against Mike Green
yeah,
competitively, but not really. So
yeah. So
darn.
it's interesting to see Josh Simmons. Don't get me wrong. If he did not get hurt, he would have been in the conversation as a top 10 pick, like bar none. The Patriots would probably take him at
Your
4.
Patriots would take him.
There is just that caveat of he only played 5 games, and then he tore his patellar. So, and that's also a major injury. So let's wrap things up here with these last 4 picks. Starting it off, Washington Commanders. I'm going to go a different route here just because I feel like we consistently go edge rusher, like we go Nick Scorton or James Pierce or Mike Green, whichever one falls. They don't need a tackle anymore because they traded for Laramie Tunsil. So let's just go full bore on the offense and let's go snag Jaden Higgins. They have Deebo Samuel, they have Terry McLaurin. Both of those guys win in different ways, but they don't necessarily have like a true jump ball receiver. And not Jaden Higgins is much more than that. But I think you go look at what his size and athleticism brings to the table. That is an elite wide receiver group there. I think everybody has a clear role. Jaden Higgins is a fantastic athlete for being 6'4", 215. They're just going to go full bore offense, let Dan Quinn kind of coach up this defense, and they can make some more picks because I believe they have a decent bit of draft capital. Oh, no, they only have 5 picks, so I got that backwards.
They've traded away a decent bit of it.
Yeah.
And so I think for good players.
Oh no, and I agree here, but I think Jaden Higgins is a really good compliment in that wide receiver room. It's also a different pick than what we've made. They could go offensive line, but I think that you can get decent value later on in that offensive line category. So Jaden Higgins, Washington Commander.
Yep. No, I can see it similar to the Ravens and the Lions. Like you just look at the roster and I like it. I like the moves that they made. So I can see them. It's weird saying reaching for a player because that being said, I feel like Jaden Higgins is not going to be there by their second pick.
Oh no,
so I don't think it's a reach if they really like him. That they want to add to the offense here. I can see that.
I actually think Jaden Higgins is he's my wide receiver 3 right now, behind Tet and then Matthew Golden.
Oh wow, even ahead of Emeka Egbuka and Luther Burden.
Yeah, I like him a lot and what he brings to the table. I mean, he is. If you told me that Drake London played for Iowa State, I would believe you. That's kind of how I view him.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could see it. And so, and especially too, if you go look at what Washington needs as of right now from a skill position player setup, I think there is a argument to be made with running back, but I think with how dynamic Jada Daniels is I think you can figure it out in the running back
Yeah.
room.
Oh yeah.
But then you go add him to that room, and Daniels is only going to be getting better throwing the ball. I do believe like that would be an amazing receiving trio overall, and what Cliff Kingsbury could do with that offense would be extremely exciting. So
Yeah.
here with the Buffalo Bills, once again, a roster that I think is just solid, like at minimum solid, if not really good in a lot of areas. I think Josh Allen definitely does uh, elevate the overall talent on this roster. I think that's what superstars do, but I think they've improved in the areas that they need to, especially on the the defensive side of the ball, such as adding Joey Bosa. You did add Larry Ogunjobi, but he's going to have a couple day suspension. Is once when the season starts for PED, if I'm not mistaken, for PED use. Let me double check that. Before I say that out, I thought I read that somewhere.
Uh,
Or is it different
it was
Ogunjobi?
two defensive. Yeah, it was Larry Ogunjobi and
Oh yeah, suspended 6 games. I was
Michael
right.
Hawk.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Since we're technically journalists, we have to be accurate on this. So I say that just because how might that impact like their decisions when it comes to like like to drafting here with the defensive tackles. That being said, I still feel some of the biggest areas for this team to improve on immediately is going to be in the secondary room. So you're going to have guys like Siobhan Ravel, you're going to have guys like Trey Amos, and you're going to have the Darian Porters. So to me here, it it's interesting on which route they end up going here. I do believe it's going to be defensive side of the ball. I'm going to go with Siobhan Ravel. Everybody
Okay.
talked about how great he was as a prospect coming in. I know he has a torn ACL. I think you're picking him here for like obviously like the ceiling growth, and you're going to allow him time to develop and to recover. I could see them going Trey Amos as well, but I think Ravel. We all know what we saw on film. We all liked what we saw on film before he got hurt. So it's unfortunate that he had that. So I think the Bills are going to see that and take a shot on him here. Because even too, like you're picking at 30, and you even too have two second round picks at pick 56 and 62 as well. So maybe they're even aggressive and go up and get a guy that they like come draft night. But I think they go secondary with this pick.
Yeah. No, I actually think that Siobhan Ravel makes a lot of sense. They could go Trey Amos or Maxwell Hairston, but Maxwell Hairston had soft tissue injuries also that I think could scare away some teams. And so I like that pick for them. Also, you look, and I'm going to bring up Kyrie Elam, not in the sense of uh like what he turned into, but you look at him as a prospect, and he was a long, rangy, athletic corner, and that's exactly what Siobhan Ravel is. He's 6'3",
Mm-hmm.
195, with really good length and hip fluidity. So I like that fit. Here with the Chiefs, they're going in the trenches. I think no matter what. I thought in that Super Bowl, the defensive line held up fairly well. So that makes me want to lean towards offensive line. Uh, I don't think they'll go guard. The guy that I am leaning towards right now is actually Donovan Jackson for them, simply because I think he's most likely going to be a left guard at the NFL level. With that being said, you go watch what he did against Oregon in as a left tackle, and what that defense have been doing to teams all year. And I think he has the athleticism to play left tackle. He definitely has the play strength to play out there on an island. So I think they have Jalen Moore. You go and you get Donovan Jackson. He's definitely going to be your left guard. He could potentially fill in for Jalen Moore and be that left tackle. And I know they have Kingsley Suamataia there, but I think Donovan Jackson is just the best. I I think Tyler Booker's a better guard, and I think Josh Connolly might be a better tackle. But Donovan Jackson gives you, um, I think, a certain level at both that it would be worth taking a chance on him over both of those guys. It's also a different name to throw in the mix here. I feel like we're constantly picking one of those guys. And I really like Donovan Jackson's football character as well. He has raving reviews from a lot of NFL scouts. So we're going to go with Donovan Jackson here and see if the Chiefs can help solidify that offensive line.
Cool. I mean, potentially. It's just interesting, just with like what are the Chiefs going to do? Because I will say they the right side of their offensive line is set. I mean, you're going to have Creed Humphrey at center, Trey Smith at right guard, Jawan
Yeah.
Taylor at right tackle. Now, could they
Yeah.
improve at right tackle? Absolutely. I think Chiefs
Oh,
fans
yeah.
would all agree with that. But that left side, though, it is going to be interesting. I do think Kingsley's going to kick in the guard, and then you're going to have who's the guy that they signed in free
Jalen Moore.
Jalen Moore is going to start off her left tackle. So do they go that route? Absolutely. I could see them maybe trading up in the second round to go get a tackle that they like, or maybe being uber aggressive here, as they have essentially 2 second-round picks. They have the 63rd pick and then the 66th pick. So I guess the start of the third round. Maybe they use one of those picks to go and trade up to go get a guy that they really want on the offensive line. That's more of a sure thing. So I think that's going to be interesting. I feel they would probably end up going more I think somewhere in the front 7, or maybe on the defensive side of the ball, because I mean they did end up losing Justin Reed in free agency, but they have their backup. Who is their backup guy?
Jaden Hicks.
Jaden Hicks. Thank you, to take that spot at free safety. So that is just where it's interesting, just because with where they're at as right now, they've invested a bunch already on the offensive line. Those picks just haven't panned out just as of yet. So do you like change course immediately, or do you try and find some other avenues? So we'll have to wait and see. The Chiefs it is going to be interesting what they end up doing here. So with the Philadelphia Eagles on the clock here, I mean, with honestly almost just one of the most perfect rosters I think you can think of.
Oh, yeah.
Just when you come and you look at their skill position players here, you look at their offensive line, and then how they have everything set up when it comes to a contract. So I think the one thing to me, if you're looking at like building for the future here, who are some of the right tackles that are on the board still?
There's not a lot of right tackles. Ozzy Trapillo is the only true right tackle. Marcus Bowe, Jonas Savanaia. I mean, we're getting down. These are third round picks.
I was thinking Cameron Williams, but man, I didn't really tell much. He's fallen off.
Yeah, well, he had some really bad tape there at the end of the year. He's 94, ranked 94 right now.
Single-handedly was the reason why Jack Sawyer strip sacked Quinn Ewers.
Oh, yeah. But
I mean,
he also, people forget in the Clemson game that he left the game with a sprained right ankle, and then he played the rest of the playoffs with a sprained ankle.
yeah.
So I guess he played the next game with a sprained ankle.
Yeah. Well, the
so
reason why I bring it up is I'm just thinking of it's like you go look at this team here, and they've done a great job of drafting and preparing for guys, like post their career. So they've done. You see that interior. They've done that. Landon Dickerson drafted in 21. I think he's panned out pretty well. Cam Jurgens,
yeah,
same thing, panned out pretty well. Now we're going to find out a lot more about Tyler Steen. Yes, but so I think if you're trying to prepare for post Lane Johnson, trying to think of guys that can kick over.
Ariante Ursary would probably be the best one to flip sides, just because if you think about it, most quarterbacks are right-handed, so that means they're going to hand the ball off with their left hand. So most offenses run the ball primarily behind the right side of the offensive line, or at least they run out wide primarily to the outside of the offensive line. And so I feel like Ariante Ursary is the best run blocker left on the board, and so he could be a high-end swing tackle.
Yeah, let's end up doing that, because the purpose for this is preparing for post Lane Johnson. That's kind of like the next thing. And even too, if I go look at this defensive roster, like so many guys are still on rookie contracts, which is just not even so many. I think all the guys, even like Reed Blankenship was undrafted, but that was even too ironically in 2022. So it was like if they did draft him, he would still be on a rookie contract. It's like that's their entire starting defense. So if you just go look at the future of these guys, and it's going to be a very fun conversation on who they want to end up keeping. I could see them maybe making some arguments like we need to keep improving at the edge rusher spot. Like if maybe move on from Nolan Smith when his time is up, move on from Jalix Hunt when his time is up. But he's coming into the second year, so like we still don't really know. So I take that back. Only guy down on a rookie contract, Zach Bond, who congratulations, you got a fat paycheck. So let's go to the Ariante Ursery with the thoughts of like developing him as a future right tackle, and also too even maybe as well too. I mean, you're still gonna have Jordan Mailata, who's one of the older guys on the offensive side of the ball.
I think he's only
So
28 or something though. Like he's
well,
not old.
they he's not old. They drafted him in 2018. So he was born in 97. His birthday was a couple days ago. So yeah,
Oh
he
my
is
gosh.
28. So I say like I'm being very nitpicky here. Now Lane Johnson, they drafted in 2013. He is 34. So that is a more serious
Yeah.
conversation you have to start having about when is he going to be um just like
When is he going to be
post.
moving on?
Yeah. When's everybody going to be moving on from him? So, but yeah, that's it. I think it's interesting. It's kind of funny how what I said earlier about the average draft position kind of came true as a couple of these guys fell for no fault of their own. But this is just going to be the draft. Like it's even. I think you can make an argument too high for Donovan Ezraku, Shamar Stewart. But as you saw there, though, like Ashton Jeanty's going to be a top 10, top 12 pick. But outside of that, like where are these guys going to end up falling?
Yeah, I think that's just the big question kind of coming into this. And I feel like at the end of all these mock drafts, we talk about this, but I think you have like the 7 or 8 guys at the top. And then after that, like, and I'll throw Ashton Jeanty in there, even though he went at 10. But you have those 7 or 8 guys at the top that I think are all going to go and that are pretty much guaranteed to be in the top 10. But then after that, it's like it's a total crapshoot on where some of these guys are going to fall. And even like I know some of my picks, like with Gray Zabel and Colston Loveland, were a little bit out there. But one, I think it is a possibility that these guys get taken at those spots. But also, like you're going to have some wild picks kind of going into draft night. Like there are going to be picks that people do not expect. And so I think it's realistic that all these guys go kind of where they were taken. And that's, I think, going to be the fun thing is I think the draft really starts at 2. Like who do the Browns taking Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter? And then if the Browns don't give Travis Hunter to the Giants, what do the Giants do? Do they trade the pick? Do they take Abdul Carter and then is Kayvon Thibodeau on the move? Like, I think it's going to be a really interesting situation kind of going forward. So
I like it.
all in all, I'm really looking forward to this draft and draft night. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, and also go on our channel and hit the timer or hit the bell to get notified when we are actually going live on draft night.